Welcome to Games Growth with Upptic. This is another one of our interview episodes. This episode, we interviewed Corey Wright, CEO of Honeyland. Very interesting interview. We talked a lot about the cross-section between Web 2 and Web 3. They're building a really, really tailored and interesting project that really hits the sweet spot here. More, what do you think about the interview?
Yeah, so today we went deep on the Web 2.5 mullet, which we are going to make happen. We're going to get that adopted. But yeah, that's kind of the Upptic thesis on the first successful Web3 games will be free-to-play in the front, blockchain in the back, aka the Web 2.5 mullet. But we've known Corey and the Honeyland team for a couple of years now, and we've checked in with them. They did a mini interview with us at GDC, 2 years ago, Xander?
Yeah.
And it's been really cool to see them fully ship their product. It's one of those rare Web3 games that you can just go on the iOS or Android store, download and play it, and you don't need any prior knowledge. Even for our listeners that don't have any interest in going deep down the Web3 rabbit hole, it's a good kind of dip your toe in the water and see how one of these hybrid games work. But yeah, I think Corey, he's a super effective speaker. He's got a lot of past business success for his work prior to Honeyland. And I think it's a good case study on how a team with a stronger operational background in building startups attacks the Web3 gaming space. How about you, Xander? What were your thoughts on Corey and some of Honeyland's vision and his opinions?
You can see why he's successful and had many exits. He's a very, very eloquent speaker, good thinker, very inspiring as he speaks. I think the thing that I thought was most interesting about this episode was talking about tokenomics with him. And they made some pretty interesting choices. They went for a one-token economy versus a two-token economy. I think that's the right decision. I think two-token economies are borderline deadly. One-token economies also might be borderline deadly, but we'll see how this one goes. They think they're being very, very intelligent about it, but there's a lot of content around that, which I think is worth anyone who's building Web3 to listen to and think about.
Yeah, that's true. We talk very candidly about the almost perfect failure rate of Web3 tokens in gaming, and if that scares the Honeyland team, and if and how they think they might be different. So yeah, for our listeners, keep an ear out for that part. I think you'll find it very interesting.
Awesome. Enjoy the episode.
Awesome. Welcome to the show, everyone. Very excited to have Corey Wright from the Honeyland team joining today. Corey, we met a while back through a mutual friend and mentor of mine, Justin Barr, on the Honeyland team. And really excited to have you guys on the show because we've now been in touch for, feels like an eternity in the Web3 space, but like from before you guys were even had soft launched the game to now you guys becoming a pretty prominent name that I'm seeing everywhere. And you guys are right at the nexus of an area we focus at a lot, which we refer to finally as the Web 2.5 mullet, which is like free-to-play best practices up front, but blockchain in the rear. And that's a lot of our bold thesis for like this next era of gaming. So we're super excited to sit down with you today and dig into the state of Honeyland and kind of like that nexus of traditional gaming and Web3 gaming and the things that you guys have learned while building. So welcome to the show.
Awesome. Well, thanks, Warren. I'm going to steal that, the Web 2.5 mullet. I love it. Yeah, that's really what we're trying to accomplish and break down. A lot of those projects who have gone for that either end up just going fully Web 2 or kind of getting out of the space. There's a lot of unique friction point challenges to be solved. But yeah, I think we're doing a good job of it and having a lot of fun doing it.
Just to start off, can you tell us a bit about yourself, your background, and what brought you to starting a game design studio?
Yeah, so I am a lifelong entrepreneur, been running businesses in digital marketing, SaaS, e-commerce for many, many years, almost 2 decades. And eventually sold kind of my last business, the thing that I'd kind of been building all along, packaged all of it together, I'd been building with my brother and ended up exiting that business and then moved into business coaching. And I wanted to kind of stay involved with growing teams and these businesses that are moving from like definitely have product market fit and then really moving through significance in terms of revenues and profits. And so became a business coach for about 2.5 years, got to work with a couple dozen like really high performing teams to organize just all of their communication and vision and accountability and all that stuff. And it was a ton of fun. And then got a call from Justin Barr, who Warren had talked to, kind of a mutual friend of ours. And he's somebody who, when I was running my previous business, he had a big business in mobile user acquisition and somebody that always just had an incredibly high level of respect for. And he said, hey, are you familiar with Web3 gaming and Axie? And have you heard of it? We've got this opportunity here and we're kind of looking forward to assemble a really cool team that can help build this project. And so that was kind of the genesis of how things happened. It was not really me trying to forge my way into Web3 gaming, but more getting back into operating businesses. And this was just a really, really cool opportunity to do some new stuff in an emerging market, and never looked back since then. It's been a ton of fun.
So just that natural pipeline of business coaching to B-based mobile Web3 game development. All this tale all this time, right? Our audience is a bit of a mix of all teams across gaming, but I'd say half in traditional gaming and half in the Web3 ecosystem in some way. For those that are not familiar with Honeyland as a project, can you give kind of the 101 of what the game is?
Yeah, so it's a mobile Web3 game. It's a casual to kind of mid-core as you start to play more. There's a lot of strategy. It's a strategy and resource management game. At a high level, you come in, we give you a series of bees, and you kind of earn more as you go through tutorials and progress. And your job is just to basically send those bees out on missions. It's kind of a proof of management game. And the more you send those bees out, the more items they're able to bring back, both the HXD, which is the currency, the cryptocurrency that runs the ecosystem, as well as items in the game. And all of that cryptocurrency and those items can be used to grow and strengthen your colony of bees over time. And then there's just 100 little meta games and micro decisions that need to be made in terms of what asset is going to be more valuable to help you accomplish your strategy. And so I always say at a high level, it's just keep your bees busy, send them out. It just can replace your social media in more of a gamified way instead of like doom scrolling through Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is, right? Gives you a little bit more fun. There's a lot of strategy that can take place, and it can keep even mid-core gamers really, really engaged, spending a bunch of time, energy, money, resources to really perfect their colony. And of course, it's built on Web3, so it's got all those, really cool things that Web3 brings to the table as well in terms of player-to-player marketplaces and experiences and real stakes gaming and, things like that.
Got it.
Is it fair to call it like an idle game with a Web3 element, or is that simplifying it too much?
No, it's idle game with Web3 elements. I think we've really tried to bring in a lot more activity and things that you can do to create this like social experience, but at its core, it's an idle game.
Okay, yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah, so I think from the free-to-play style, we really wanted to build a game that was fun first. And I think a lot of projects kind of caught on to this. They're like, hey, we can't just build a game with a token. We've got to build a game that's actually fun to play. And so I think we've really tried to build a game that you don't know is Web3 when you first come in. It doesn't have blockchain and crypto and NFTs at like the forefront of what we're doing. Those are things that are kind of learned over time. And so I think that's probably what we stole from free-to-play is just a lot of these really fun, creative mechanics of like achievement, progression, ownership that don't necessarily involve any sort of a Web3 or financial component. What I think we try to bring in with the Web3 stuff is there's just so many different ways to play the game. When you have a player-to-player marketplace and you can breed and hatch or create more bees or upgrade those bees over time, and then you can actually trade those to go find maybe bees that were a good match for your colony today, but next week, the way that your colony has grown, that you may want bees with different moods or different traits or different styles of what they're good at in the game. And so I think it unlocks so much of that. And then there's a financial component to it, right? And so like every decision that you're making isn't just like, do I take this in-game jewel and spend it on something cool or let it sit there and rot? The decision is different, right? It's, do I take this HXD and do I spend it on something cool, or do I figure out, does it have more value to me outside of the ecosystem than it would inside of the ecosystem? So I think that's kind of where we tried to approach this. The challenges that come with that are, how do you not make the only thing that you're selling people the fact that there's a financial component? Because as soon as you start to do that, it creates this revolution of extraction instead of participation. And so we've had to think really, really long and hard. I think we'll get into this. And Warren, I think you're so thoughtful about this too. Can Web3 games with tokens actually survive, right? Has anybody done it in a really significant and sustainable way yet? And I think there's certain things that we're doing that we've really tried to approach it from not a way that we can like just incentivize people to come in and extract, but really say, come in and play the game and have decisions of where you're going to find the greatest level of happiness through ownership of these items, whether it's in the ecosystem, trading in the ecosystem, or at some point extracting from the ecosystem, but only at a point where we've made the player think really long and hard about where they're going to derive the most happiness for their own personal experience.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely get into token components. And that's a really interesting space that we've talked about a lot. And I think you have a really specific insight on. I haven't played a lot of Honeyland, but I did download it and I was signing up this morning. And one of the cool things is like do you sign up with Apple, you sign up with email, or you sign up with a wallet? And so that's like, okay, you're clearly making it easy enough so that anyone can just come in, use it for the first time and hit the ground running. You said one other thing before we hop into the token topic, which I wanted to press on, which is you talked about this transaction economy where people are buying and selling components of your game. Where is that mostly happening? Is that happening mostly in the game, or does that happen on OpenSea and the like predominantly? Where is actually that economy taking place?
Yeah, so back on December 21st of last year, 2023, we launched our in-game marketplace. We worked with Magic Eden for about 5 months. We had them completely rework their piping so that players could actually buy and sell our NFTs in HXD, both on Magic Eden as well as inside of our game. They then had to build an API. We had to do all the testing. I think this is something that will ultimately be pretty groundbreaking in Web3 gaming and unlock a lot of opportunities. But when we did that, it meant that players could now not only buy and sell NFTs in HXD on Magic Eden, giving more utility to our token, but that we could now port all of this directly inside the game. And so players can, from their bees, when they're in their hive, they can see a bee, they can directly list it in the marketplace from the app, and they can go to the marketplace in the app and buy a bee with their in-game balance. And then all of that stuff is taking place on chain outside of the game. So there's no friction. It just feels like it's a Web2 game, but all this stuff is taking place on chain in the background with basically systems that we've set up. And so when you list in the game, it actually is viewable in Magic Eden. So it's really, really cool what we've done. To get to your question, we saw our NFT sales 5x since we launched that. My whole thing was like the availability to participate in Web3 just doesn't exist for a lot of Web2 players. And so how do we make it available to participate in everything? So find it in app stores, Google and Apple, anywhere in the world. Xander, you talked about, then you can sign in with a Google or an Apple ID. You don't need a Web3 wallet. You don't need an NFT. The ability to purchase HXD. So when you want to go participate in the marketplace, to purchase as an in-app purchase through Google Pay or Apple Pay. So you don't need to have a crypto wallet or anything like that, but you could actually own the HXD. You can go participate in the marketplace. And so we're really just trying to cut the friction out of all of this. And that's where we talk about kind of this 2.5 mullet. I think a lot of games have not really taken the challenge of actually making it feel like a Web2 game in terms of the frictionless experience to get in, start playing and participating in everything. But then all along, they're actually owning cryptocurrency. They're actually participating in owning and buying and selling and trading NFTs, minting them in the game. And so there's a lot of really cool things that we've done, and we want to educate them over time in terms of what those Web3 components truly are.
Corey, at this point in the journey of Honeyland, what's your audience like? How would you break down the percentage of the player base that comes from a Web3 first or high affinity for Web3 space versus people who are maybe having one of, if not their very first Web3 experience through Honeyland? What does that look like today, and where do you think it's going?
Right now, we've got about 8,000 players coming in and playing daily. We've got about twice that weekly. And that number is growing. We just started doing like paid user acquisition as we got into app stores globally and stuff like that. So we're about 30 to 45 days into like a lot of paid user acquisition. If we look at the daily active players right now, I think there's almost a 50% split that about half of those are Web3 natives that have a wallet. They may own some of our NFTs. And about half of those are coming in directly from our paid acquisition, which we're really targeting Web2 gamers to come in and start playing a Web3 game. And so I think we're seeing about 50-50. I think when we fast forward to the middle of this year, I think we'll see probably about 80 to 85% of the players playing will be Web2 natives experiencing Web3 games for the first time.
Got it. And from a business standpoint and ability to monetize different segments of your player base, do you feel like Honeyland in its current state, if I friggin' hate all things blockchain, but Honeyland is appealing to me, how full of an experience in the economy can someone who's not ready or interested in participating in the Web3 component, how full of an experience can they have today? And like, is that a viable business segment for you to go after today in the current form of Honeyland?
You're not earning very much as a Gen Z player, but your purchasing power is the same. You can still go earn items. You can hunt for free to find items. You can go upgrade for free. The shop is like 3% or 2% of the cost of items that you would have to purchase for the generations fees and things like that. So we've created the purchasing power to be the same without the actual emissions being anywhere near what that full Web3 economy is. So the goal is that they can participate in everything if it's just a fun game and you just want to kind of progress through and earn and grow XP and breed and hatch and upgrade and strategize, that you can do all of that. You just can't do it in the fully Web3 economy. The final piece that we're working to solve, and we're going to do this through what we'll call proof of unique human being, is that we can actually build a bridge so that with time and energy invested in the game, we can actually build a bridge to true Web3 ownership to where you can earn and own actual NFTs that have actual marketplace value, that they can actually go out and earn more significant amounts of HXD. And so we need to do that without diluting the existing Web3 economy. But I think we can be incredibly intentional and thoughtful about this. And again, the fear of that is, what about multi-accounts and bots and all these types of things that can destroy a gaming ecosystem when you offer too much without the real gates on it to make sure that they're real people playing a game? And so we're working on like a optional proof of unique human being. And if you want to opt into that, the rewards become significantly different than if you have not opted into that. But you can play in any capacity that you want. Fully Web 2 without opting in, Web 2 with opting in, which will give you a clear path or bridge to Web 3, or you can just fully jump into Web 3. Generally, money is going to be your easiest way to get into that.
Interesting. I mean, that's quite a spectrum. That's quite different than 99% of the Web3 experiences that exist now, which are mostly gated behind web apps and are really, really focused on the monetization component, less so on the game component.